welcome to the CNBC TV 18 special. I'm Shereen Bhan, and we're in conversation with the Coal and Power Minister Piyush Goyal. Mr. Goyal, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. Well, let me start by congratulating you because you've been awarded the top marks as far as the CNBC TV 18 Forbes India poll is concerned. Your ministry has been the best performing ministry in the year that's gone by, so congratulations on that. But let me start by asking you about what is a worrying situation at this point in time. The IMD has revised its forecast for the monsoon even lower, so it had already forecast a subpar monsoon, and now it's forecasting an even more deficient monsoon. It hasn't declared a drought just yet, or a drought-like situation just yet. What will it mean for your ministry specifically as far as hydropower is concerned?
Well, hydropower will certainly get affected, and it did get affected last year also. But if you recall, last year in the June, July, August period, monsoon period, when hydel was down, coal had bumped up its production to nearly 13.5% growth, and we were able to ensure that throughout the country there were no power shortages or outages. Even this year, we have in fact provided far more proactively. There's adequate coal at every thermal power plant. We've also kept coal at the pit heads. Production of coal in the first 61 days of this year is up by 11.8%, which I would believe is a record by itself. So we have enough coal on hand. We'll bump up the thermal generation. We'll look at pithead plants producing more power, and we'll ensure that by and large the country does.
So a contingency plan is already in the works?
I think any good responsive government should always be in a perpetual state of contingency.
You know, since you're talking about coal production, sir, and that is one of the big achievements as far as your ministry is concerned, and specifically for Coal India, production up over 8%, and that of course is a historic high for the company. In this backdrop, can we expect your ministry to push for a further disinvestment as far as Coal India is concerned? Because obviously the fundamentals for the company certainly look a lot better. You helped the finance ministry shore up its disinvestment revenues last time around. Will you come to the finance minister's aid this time as well?
Well, it's not about coming to his aid. It's a requirement of SEBI that Coal India should be 75%.
You're currently at about 79%.
So there is some requirement of SEBI which we have to fulfill. The exact timing is up to the Honorable Finance Minister and the Disinvestment Department. We have an absolutely open mind on that.
Could it be this fiscal? Is that what you're targeting?
Maybe, but there is no timing decided as yet. We have an open mind. We look at market conditions. We look at the requirements of the FISC. And I think in the overall context, we have to maximize the value for the government of India.
Okay. Let me ask you about forthcoming reforms, because we're very well aware of the reform agenda that you've already pushed forward in the last 12 months. The big question mark now is on when you actually start commercial mining. The Coal Secretary says that the framework is being put in place and it's now a question of when as opposed to how. When should we actually expect to see results as far as coal mining is concerned, commercial coal mining is concerned?
I think we still have to see the extent of preparedness of various mines. As mines keep coming up which are explored and have the requisite clearances, and we are able to take them out for auction. We had announced at the beginning that our first priority is to meet the end-use requirement. Commercial mining would come at a later stage.
So what does that mean exactly? A later stage would mean the next 6 months, this financial year?
You know, we always announce as soon as we take a decision on the timing. It will be up on the website.
But what's holding that decision back at this point in time?
I genuinely believe it's important to have mines which are in a reasonable state of preparedness. People who bid for those mines should have the confidence that they will be able to start those mines in a reasonable time frame. So I'd like to see the possibility of getting its clearances, its ability to start mining quickly before we start the next round of auctions. And in that, we would obviously like to give preference to end users first.
Okay. Speaking of auctions, we are still awaiting the next round of auctions as far as coal mines are concerned, and also we are awaiting the final modalities for the linkage auctions as well. If you can share timelines for us, when we could actually see this process being underway?
Well, not yet decided, but we are exploring which are the mines which would make for good auctions in terms of its preparedness. As soon as we get a set of mines which are a decent quantity of mines, we'll put them up for auction.
But the emphasis is going to be on the unregulated sector?
Probably at present, yes, because there is far more shortages there, and the imports, as we are assessing them, are happening more in the non-regulated sector.
So again, do you believe that over the next few months we are likely to move towards that?
I would think so.
And the delay that we're now seeing as far as the second phase of the auction process is concerned, what would you attribute that delay to, and how soon are we going to see you move on that?
In the first round, we made sure all the mines which were either operating or near a stage of operation were all put up for auction. At this stage are the mines which generally don't necessarily have all the clearances, may not have land availability. So there's a lot of back and forth to ensure that what we are putting up for auction can get into mining operations quickly.
So what kind of delays are we looking at this point in time? Because it's already been delayed by a couple of weeks, if I'm correct.
That doesn't matter. We have not put any timeline, so there's really no delay.
But the anticipation was, yeah.
That's an anticipation in the media. We have not put any timelines, and when we put a timeline, we stick.
So when do you expect that timeline to be put in place, sir?
Not yet decided. As we get more data and we are sure that these are the mines which can be auctioned, we'll immediately draw up a timetable. You may hear about it in the reasonably near future.
Okay, reasonably near future doesn't give me any indication of the timeline, but since we are talking about approvals, and that seems to be what is holding back the auction process at this point in time, this was a budget announcement as well, and we've spoken about this, the plug-and-play model. The finance minister also said that beyond your sectors, the entire infrastructure sector should move towards the plug-and-play model. Where do things currently stand on that front?
Well, things are quite good. In the UMPPs, we are looking at various projects where we can increasingly have the approvals or possibility of having land in place. We are also looking at old plants which could be taken up for expansion and taken up to the UMPP level in partnership with the original state government which owns these old plants. So various options are being looked at with an open mind. I'm fairly confident that during the course of this year, we'll come up with 5 UMPPs in the plug-and-play mode as assured by the Honourable Finance.
When do we actually see the revised bidding norms being put forward?
About a month from now.
A month from now? Are you also reviewing the entire classification of a UMPP? Because I asked this in the context of what's happened with Reliance Power moving out of Tilaiya, and of course that's a matter between the state government and the company concerned. You don't in a sense have a role to play in that. But there's been a lot of conversation or discussion on whether 4,000 megawatts is really ideal, whether the ideal thing would be to actually look at smaller UMPPs at about 2,000 megawatts. That would be the size. Former power secretaries have commented on that issue. There was a committee in the past that advised on this issue as well. Do you think there's merit to that argument?
The Piyush Goyal committee has been asked to look at all possible suggestions, and whatever comes before that committee, I believe this is also one of the issues that they are looking at. But UMPP at 4,000 is an established process. There's no stopping anybody from setting up a 2,000 megawatt project. There's no stopping a potential future bidding for smaller projects. So by and large, our approach is there should be transparency and honesty in government. There could be situations where different places may not have the ability to absorb 4,000 megawatt. So we may have to look at smaller plants. And there's another possibility that a very large mine with large amount of land may be available somewhere where one could even look at a larger power plant.
But given the experience that we've seen with the UMPPs in the past, especially with private sector operators choosing to opt out, do you believe that there is enough private appetite for these UMPPs?
Well, if we come up with a robust plug-and-play model, my interactions with investors around the world suggest that people are looking for participation. They want a framework which is robust, which is bankable, which I hope the Piyush Goyal committee comes up with. They want to ensure that the bidding process is extremely transparent. They want to ensure that going forward, the projects won't get stuck in regulatory approvals or acquisition issues. So we are talking to the state governments to ensure their participation and assurance that land will be available within a given time frame. I'm fairly confident that we'll see good amount of participation.
Specifically on Tilaiya, have you heard from the state government on what could be the way out as far as Tilaiya is
I
concerned?
read a newspaper report that they are asking that it should be rebuilt, but I have not yet received any such request.
Okay. Another issue which requires urgent attention, and this is something that you spoke about when you were talking about your achievements, is the financial restructuring package as far as discoms are concerned. You hope that state governments will come on board. We haven't really seen any evidence of moving forward on this issue. You yourself talked about 70,000 crore rupees in terms of annual losses for discoms. 2.5 lakh crores of losses have been accumulated so far.
That's the last reported figure. It could be a little better on an annual basis, a little worse on the cumulative basis. Shereen, as things stand, that is the challenge before the country. There have been certain states which have been extremely imprudent in their management of their fiscal and their finances. Certain states like Rajasthan, for example, have in the last regime between 2008 and 13 built up this huge amount of loss because they didn't control power theft, they didn't control their losses, tariffs were not right-sized at the right time. And the new government is grappling with this massive problem on their head. Just interest cost alone is more than 10,000 crores, resulting in an overall burden on the discom where they can't buy more power. We are in dialogue with them. We are talking to the finance ministry to see what framework can be created. But I can assure you we are not looking at a one-size-fits-all program.
What do you hope to achieve now, and how is the approach going to be different?
We believe that the state governments today understand that if they don't set this right, they are not going to be able to serve their people. So I'm finding state governments far more responsive to act on what we ask them is good for that state. Second, as we explain to them the virtues of a sustainable program, which includes efficiency, which includes reducing power theft, reducing the TNC losses, they understand that what we are suggesting is not necessarily a rate increase. We are suggesting a saving in cost. So when we talk to the state that why don't you pick up some of your debt into the state treasury and bring down the interest cost, which today is 12.5%, 13%. Bring it down to maybe 8.5%, 9%.
By when can we expect a tangible sort of movement on this front? And how many state governments are currently on board with the package that you're suggesting?
We are talking to all the state governments, and we've got some external experts aiding and advising the process where central government, state government, and certain experts are working as a team to draw up a state-specific plan. The end objective being 24/7 power to everybody in that state. Obviously, which is not possible unless these discoms also improve their finances. So it's a holistic planning towards that goal of 24/7.
But that's a goal by 2019, sir. In the interim, when can we expect tangible movement towards this?
Movement has to start right away. As each state's plans get ready, we start discussing with them. Look at Andhra Pradesh. They're already implementing what we finalized last year. Rajasthan, we're already in dialogue. I think they've already come out with an RFP or are on the way of coming out with an RFP to restructure their finances, to raise bonds, to repay their existing debt. So those which plans are ready are already underway. Delhi, we had started implementing in large measure. Unfortunately, I see that there's some slowdown in the last few months. I do hope the state government will focus on the power sector much more.